Play clock at 5. Pass is intercepted at the goal line by Malcolm Butler.
Yes, he did. He gives it to Henry.
Quick snap. Breeze. Pass is incomplete. No flag.
4th and goal. And they're going to snap it, and it's Trey Burton who throws caught. Touchdown.
Week 10 of the NFL season was another one in consecutive weeks where we saw a lot of the unexpected. And if you're a fan of some of these particular teams, you did not have a good day. Special shout out to my buddy Jalen, co-host of here. And because lucky guy, Cardinals fan, was able to make it out to his first game in a little bit there. Yeah. And so I haven't personally said anything to him because I understand. So I just let him simmer, but not a great look. But there's that. There's Mac Jones doing Mac Jones things. We have the first tie of the NFL season. Should we still have those? Should we not? Absolutely, some of them we're going to talk about here. Then, Alex, we're going to talk about the most overrated team in the league, the most disappointing teams, and also who might be the team to beat this week as well. I mean, I know, and then, of course, another solid edition of the Name of the Week. If you want, just in terms of just general nays that we've had on the show between the NFL and UFC, oh boy, did we have one on UFC Talk this week. UFC Talk 65. Go check that out everywhere. And man, it's an exciting week. I still can't believe that we're over the halfway point of at least the regular season, man.
I told you last week we got to stop. You got to stop worrying about that stuff. We got to enjoy what we have, and we got to relish the last bits of football we can get in this year.
Absolutely. But, Alex, how are we feeling after a pretty hectic Week 10?
You know, I think we're starting to realize that, you know, this NFL season, unlike a lot of other seasons, you know, they changed up the rules a little bit. They're allowing people to play a little more physical. They're, you know, kind of letting
after the play.
Yeah, it's just we're starting to see, like, you know, there was this huge push for everyone to go that spread offense, throw out their 3-4 wide receiver sets and guys chucking the ball over the yard. And now we see teams defensively just kind of, you know, playing that cover 2 shell, playing that bend but don't break defense. And it's just kind of separating the efficient offenses from the teams that are just trying to do the things that analytics and analysts tell them they should do, even if they can't do those specific things efficiently. So we're kind of starting to see teams break that mold a little bit. You know, teams like the Titans and teams like the Packers, they're winning games not in the traditional 34-24 sense, but, you know, Packers are limiting teams to, you know, very, very good defensive numbers, and they're winning games in non-traditional ways.
Which is one of the most shocking things I see. Of course, we're going to get into the Packers a little bit more, but how their defense at times is actually outperforming what their offense is capable of doing. Out in the last decade of Packers football, I don't think we've seen this. So that's just another reason of the crazy stuff going on. But we're going to hop into things. Of course, thank you guys so much for tuning in today. I'm your host, Ross Allen, joined alongside by NFL correspondent Alex Kropp. And it's been a good time. This is going to be another good time. We had a great time last week. It's going to be another exciting show this week. So, of course, thank you so much for joining. A couple things to get out of the way before we hop into the winners and losers of Week 10 is, of course, some housekeeping stuff. I mean, YouTube sucks, man. Let's just be honest. It's not an ideal platform. So if you like the video format, we have now been granted access to publish videos on Spotify. So not only do we have audio, we had the video on Spotify. We're also now on Rumble Video as well. A little more simpler version of YouTube with a lot less ads and a lot less BS. So I am enjoying it so far. Go check us out there. And it's that time of the year, Alex. It's getting a little bit chilly. It's definitely a lot colder up here in Idaho than it is over with you in California. Man, I love it. Going to the gym with frost on the ground, it just feels amazing in the morning now. But what that means, it's kind of sweater season. Ain't that right? So, I mean, we got hoodies. Not only do we have the basic 4th and long ones, we got the certified banger collection, and also trucker hats are on their way. Just gotta put that out there, Alex. But we're gonna hop into things. Winners and losers of the Week 10. And let's talk about the guy that is already the greatest quarterback to ever come from his college. He's very well. He really has an opportunity to be the best quarterback of his draft class, and he looks like he's teetering on like top half of the league, nearing like and sometimes top 10 quarterback numbers in passing. Mac Jones, another fantastic week for the quarterback. Him and the Patriots are rolling. We're going to talk about the Patriots as a team a little bit later here, but dude, Mac Jones is a baller, and they put a beat down on the Browns, man. And the Browns have a good defense, but you still have Mac Jones putting up 3 touchdowns, a couple hundred yards. And the Patriots themselves, they helped when they were able to rush for almost 200 yards in this game. But Mac Jones is an efficient quarterback. He's a talented quarterback. He's a poised quarterback. And hell, man, he's in terms of like their first stretch of games, he's outperforming Tom Brady. So take that as you will.
I mean, it's just been extremely impressive to see how he's developed even throughout these first 10 weeks of the season. I mean, they're one of the few teams that haven't had the bye this year. And the bye for rookie quarterbacks is so important, especially when they get those reps before that bye week, because it just gives them that time to really self-assess and really figure out what they've been doing right. Go back to the lab, go back and really study the film of not just their opponents, but of their own film, and try to figure out what they're doing right, what they're doing wrong. But Mac Jones is he's doing things that you wouldn't expect a rookie quarterback, especially in a Josh McDaniels offense, because it's predicated on making a full field read. And a lot of the rookie quarterbacks, they try to cut the field in half, give him just a high-low read or just an inside-outside read. But Mac Jones has taken the whole entire field, and especially a couple of those throws today. I mean, he wasn't asked to do a ton, but they're built on the run game. They have a great defense, and Mac Jones does not make very many mistakes, and he's extremely efficient, and that's all that they're asking him to do. And I think especially when they have that week 14 bye, they're going to expand that playbook a little bit. But the Patriots are not just beating teams, they are pounding teams. And I mean, the Browns scored the first 7 points of the game,
or at least at the beginning of the season, good teams.
And they ripped off 45 straight points against that Browns team. They wouldn't even let them score in garbage time. I mean, it was impressive, and it's kind of reminiscent of the 2018 quarterback draft, when we had 5 quarterbacks go in the first round, and the last guy drafted Lamar Jackson. Obviously not the 32nd pick, but he was the strongest in that draft class, and we kind of see that same trend going right now with Mac Jones. And I think the biggest thing here too is, and sorry for kind of going long here on Mac Jones, but it's the situation, right? It's the right player, the right situation, the right coaches, the right weapons around him, the right defense. And it's allowing him to thrive and not asking him to do too much. And that's really, really helping his development.
And this is the first time in Patriots history where they've scored 45-plus points in consecutive home games. Of course, they had a home game a couple weeks ago. That's when they smashed the Jets 54-13. Hell, they give them more points to the Jets in Mike White than they did to the Cleveland Browns.
It's crazy. I mean, it's the things that they're doing.
What's going on?
I don't get how they're doing it on both sides of the ball too. I mean, their special teams is elite. Their defense is trending to be elite, and their offense is now, they've put 40 points up the last couple of games. So they're just starting to separate themselves as a three-dimensional team. I don't like it, because Patriots fans are extremely annoying. And, in the past, I was able to kind of justify that because I love Tom Brady so much. But now that he's down there in South Beach, it's not the same to see those Patriots near the top of the AFC.
That's so funny to me, because I kind of realized, so like for the longest time, of course, I hated anything that had to do with the success of the Patriots. But now they're having success. They're looking like a really solid team. I don't hate them, and I think I found it out. No, Alex, I found it out. I just hate Tom Brady, and there's quite frankly, there's something wrong with that. I can hate the man while respecting him, but nonetheless, he still pisses me off.
We can't have that. We can't have Tom Brady slander on here. We just can't do that.
Well, we're gonna get Tom Brady slander because he beat Peyton Manning too many times.
I'll start slandering Von Miller then.
Well, he's not on the Broncos anymore, so it'll hurt a little bit less. Let's not talk about him getting pancaked by George frickin' Kittle, who's just proving that he's the greatest pass-blocking tight end in the league.
And run-blocking tight end.
Yeah. Sorry, I said pass.
Honestly, he's honestly the best pass-blocking tight end, too.
Yeah, just blocking in general. He's just the best. Next guy I want to shout out is, not a rookie, but the guy in his sophomore season. Let's talk about CeeDee Lamb with the Dallas Cowboys, even with Amari Cooper on his team, he's still turned to a bona fide wide receiver 1. And it's him, and he's helped Dak Prescott have a MVP caliber season. Dak Prescott's also helping him realize his offensive capability. And man, he just knows how to take the roof off a defense, and that's about it, man. It's as simple as that.
I think the big thing too is we see a lot from CeeDee Lamb. He's extremely good and extremely dangerous on those broken plays. Mm-hmm. And we see this a lot with the explosive offenses, the Chiefs, the Bills. You see Tyreek, you see Stephon Diggs doing this a lot. When plays break down and you have your quarterback getting out of the pocket, which Dak Prescott does so well, if you're on the outside, you're breaking up towards the end zone. If you're already deep, you're coming back towards the ball, you're out breaking, you're making the quarterback, you just make yourself available to the quarterback. And CD does this so freaking well. And I think it really stems back to his time at Oklahoma. Oklahoma had a lot of this type of offense, especially with Jalen Hurts and Baker Mayfield. They both love to get out of the pocket, not just to run, but to also attack down the field. And so CD is so freaking good at this. It turns in, those slants into a slant and almost go. Mm-hmm. And he's just turning those small broken plays into just dynamic down the field plays. And he's so good at contested catches that he just needs a little bit of separation, a little bit of space to make those big impactful plays.
Absolutely. And he has a quarterback with the arm to deliver him the football in the good spot.
Especially on the run.
That Dallas Cowboys offense is looking pretty damn good at this point. And then we saw the reemergence of the Chiefs on Sunday Night Football. So, hell, that Dallas Cowboys Kansas City Chiefs game might just be a great week for fantasy football players as long as you don't have either defense. And quite frankly, if you have either defense on your team, there's something wrong with you already. So, don't have to worry about that one. Couple losers for this week, though. I think I'm going to be a little bit more brief with this first one just because we're going to talk about them a little bit later in terms of ties. But the Lions, you deserve a shout out here because you end your losing streak by not getting a win. You end your losing streak by not losing. And that alone has to be one of the most Lions thing to happen in the last, 5-10 years for this franchise.
Well, here's the more important stat is Jared Goff did not break his winless, not under Sean McVay stat.
That too.
He's really pushing. He's climbing that ladder up to that next level, but he still has not gotten that notch in the W column, not under Sean McVay. And it's really starting to turn just a really bad direction for Jared Goff. And it's tough for this Lions team. I mean, they don't have much to play for, much to fight for, but at least they're the endearing team of the NFL this year.
That's a fact. And hey, you're not going to be the first 0-17 team. Just going to be the first one to go 0-16-1.
There it is. That's something to shoot for.
Oh, then Alex, you have a special little shout out. I think a lot of people could agree about this team of why they deserve to be on this list of Week 10 losers. Oh, what a game this was in all the wrong ways.
Here's what happened. I think it got you too, especially as the locked-in host, is when you play a stinker like that on Thursday and you have that whole slate of Saturday college football and Sunday NFL and even the Monday night game to just erase everyone's memory, that it almost feels
forgot.
Like
you're right.
I'm telling you, it was almost like back in week 9 that it happened. But this Ravens team, everyone was kind of looking for that really big top dog in the AFC. And, everyone's like, Ravens, they play this, such aggressive style. And Lamar's a big, impactful playmaker. And then you come out on Thursday night and you put up a really, really sad 10 points against the Miami Dolphins team, which has looked like an absolute Swiss cheese on steroids team this year. And that touchdown they had at the end of the game was almost like a garbage time touchdown too. So going a full 3.5 quarters without getting one touchdown on this Dolphins team in prime time does not sit well with me. And I don't know how many times we can chalk up, these elite teams in our, perceived way as, let's just chalk this up to a stinker game and we'll try to burn the tape and come back next week. But the Bucs are doing it too much. The Ravens have done this twice now against the Bengals team, which has looked horrible the last 2 weeks. And now this time against the Dolphins. And, it's getting harder and harder to overlook these things. And I'm just struggling to find that really, really, trustworthy contender in the AFC right now, and it's just been a tough week for the Ravens there.
Man, all I know is that, especially in the AFC, that this phrase reigns so true, and that is, when you think you know something, that means you know absolutely nothing, because the AFC, especially the top contenders, or at least I'll put in quotes the contenders, it changes every single week. There is no consistency with any of these top teams in the AFC, except the only consistency right now is, we'll have to give credit to the Titans because they've won 6 games in a row. They're on the longest winning streak in the NFL right now. So they're the closest thing we have to real consistency. I hate talking about the AFC because you say one thing, and no matter what your take is, positive or negative about any team, it changes.
And the Chiefs are at the top of the division, and where everyone was counting them out dead. They were 2-4, right?
And now what, is their offense back too? What the hell?
It's ridiculous. And it's one of those things where I feel like the Titans and the Cardinals are in similar situations in both the divisions where they had the top dominant records, but I still didn't trust them. I didn't think they were really great teams at the top of the division. And it's one of those things where we're going to need to see, some of these teams like the Bucs and the Chiefs and the Cowboys, the teams that we want to be good teams, that we want to be those separating contenders. They have a chance now to reestablish.
As a fan, do you want those to be good teams? Because I know I don't.
It's one of those things where I want there to be a definitive front runner in the NFL, because it's easier for me to compute in my brain that this team is going to be, you got to go into Tampa Bay and dethrone the Bucs to get to the NFC Championship. And there's just not that team right now, because the Packers have never done it before. The Cardinals have never done it before. The Rams look like, they're broken right now. And the Cowboys have never done it before on the big stage in the 2000s. And it's just weird to think about these teams in unfamiliar positions.
And now you might even have to throw the Niners back into mix after
Seriously,
their life-breathing performance on Monday. And especially just that much. Recently, we talked about talked about Kyle Shanahan's job being on the line, and then he goes out, pulls out this offensive performance.
Maybe Sean McVay's job's on the line.
Oh man! But no, now that you said that, the Rams are going to score 50 points next week against whoever the hell they're playing. So, it's really fun being in a position like this. Having talked about these games, actually, the Rams won't be able to put 50 next week because they're on the bye. But
couldn't come at a better time for them.
Week 12, I guess, man. Who knows? But oh man, let's talk about some other stuff here, and we're going to keep it with some of these teams. It's going to stay a little more it's going to stay somewhat consistent with the themes that we've been talking about here. But this is going to bring us to our buy or sell segment, one of the longest running segments in the show history, and this thing always hits, man. I gotta say, it always hits. But for those that don't know, got a few statements here, and it's up to you of whether you're going to buy it or you're going to sell it. Of course, when we're all said and done here, let us know what you guys think of this, whether you buy or sell any one of these statements. And hit us up on either Apple Podcasts. You can leave a comment on YouTube, or hit us up on our socials on Twitter or Instagram. You can find everything at thefourthandlong.com. But Alex, buying into the Mac Jones hype a little bit, the first statement goes along with that, and that is the Patriots are legitimate Super Bowl contenders. This is coming off of another demolishing of a team that a lot of people seem to be a actual AFC Championship game contender at the beginning of the year. They smashed the Browns. They're 6-4. They have the 12th easiest remaining schedule in the league, and 4 very winnable games, or including that with the Jags, Colts, Falcons, and Dolphins. And their hardest games left are the Titans and the Bills twice. 2 divisional games, which, depending on how that goes, and depending on what version of either team we see, we can actually see the Patriots actually win the AFC North. But buy or sell it.
The AFC, the AFC East, but they all
yes,
kind of
East,
that northeast section. We almost need to combine those two conferences because it's that geographical thing does not make much sense.
Thanks for covering my ass as best as you could on that one. I appreciate it.
I mean, honestly, I think you're right. I kind of like your division better there, but we'll take that up with Roger at a later date.
Hell,
but,
the Patriots could win the AFC North if they're in it right now.
I mean, they did just beat the Browns there, so they're 1-0 in the AFC North right now. Here's the thing. I'm going to sell this statement, and it's for a couple reasons. It's because we don't know if they're legit Super Bowl contenders yet, because they've played one good team that they've beaten in the Cleveland Browns. They lose the game to the Dolphins. They lose a game to they lose a game to the Bucks. They lose a game to other, winnable games that
Did
they're
beat the Chargers, but also the Chargers have really fallen off recently.
the Chargers win looked great 3 weeks ago, but it's not looking as good anymore. And it's like you beat up on the Jets, you beat up on the Texans barely, and it's these next 4 weeks before the bye that is really going to separate them as contenders or not. They got to play the Bills, they got to play the Titans, like you said, and it's just going to be one of those tests where we don't know how good this team is until they play consistently good teams. Beating the Browns the way they did was incredible, but that's their first really definitive win. So could they be Super Bowl contenders? Absolutely. Do they have the makeup of it? Yes. But I really still worry that when it gets down to crunch time and you play those playoff games where everyone is just geared towards stopping what you do, I don't know if they have the difference makers on the outside in the pass game to be able to separate themselves in a playoff game. Can you establish the run? Of course you can. I just don't think that there's, those game plans like the Niners had against the Packers in the NFC Championship in 2019, where you can just run the ball down teams' throats, especially because, you're going to have games where it's just higher scoring because you have teams in the AFC like the Bills, like the Chiefs, and you're going to have to play those higher paced games. And with guys like Kendrick Bourne, Jacoby Myers, Nelson Aguilar, and your two tight ends, I don't know if you have the difference makers in the pass game to be able to win those one-on-one matchups where it feels like the playoffs kind of go to. So I'm going to sell the statement for now, but if they prove over the next 3-4 weeks that they can beat these good teams and they can do it in different ways, then I'll, of course, be bought in for sure.
Absolutely. And the Patriots, they are a good team, and if you take their two worst losses, they did lose in week 1 to the Dolphins 17-16, so that's not a good one. That's like the Titans losing to the Jets. It's one of those kind of blemishes. But if you want to take solace in some of these losses, take a look at that Bucks and Patriots game. The Patriots almost were just 2 points away from knocking out the Bucks, and Mac Jones did outperform Tom Brady in that game. So you have to remember that. And they took the Cowboys to overtime, which is still a well-played game, obviously still losses. This is a team that's definitely going to be battling out for those wild card positions, those 5, 6, 7 teams. I could definitely see the Patriots being a 5th seed.
But also with 2 games against the Bills in the division and only separate, and they're tied. I think they're tied with the Bills right now in the win column, so they have everything in front of them to be able to win that division and get a first home field advantage.
They do. I'm just not sure if they could beat the Bills twice is what it looks like they're going to have to do if they want to win this division. They could definitely, split it, home and home. I definitely am not putting that past them, but also just as easily I could see the Bills winning twice. Just because the Bills are a damn good football team right now. The Bills are ahead in the division just because that one less loss in one less game played than the Patriots. The Patriots, if they're I would almost put them as shoe-in for the playoffs at this point. Super Bowl,
I would agree.
Super Bowl is a little bit too much for me at this moment. Kind of to like your reasoning there. I just need to see more from this team. I really do like the trajectory that this Patriots team is on. They looked a little shaky beginning in the year. 4 wins in a row now. They're really coming to their own, and this is looking like a scary team that, once again, you don't want to have to play games in Foxborough. You just don't.
It's one of those things, though. It's like they got seven games left on the schedule, and I think 10 wins is reasonable, but 10 wins, I don't know if that gets you one of those top 4 seeds, especially if you split against the Bills. And it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for them to go on the road. As good as Mac Jones has looked, it's still different when you play in January and February on the road in a playoff game. And if you go to a team like the Bills or like the Titans or like the Chiefs, these games are just so much more difficult than these regular season games. So he's going to be challenged like he's never been before. And we're going to see a lot out of Mac Jones these next couple weeks for sure.
At least Mac Jones does have experience playing in high level games and high pressure games, championship games, but of course NFL is a different beast. But
and a lot of those, and that's the weird thing too, is, I mean, not weird, but obviously this is kind of how they draw it up, but the big games in a college setting are almost always in weather controlled environments.
The domes, especially the SEC.
Yes, and so you never really have those tests, especially playing in the Northeast like that. It's going to be a different ball game when you go to all
Absolutely.
those top teams besides the Titans play in some sort of cold weather environment. So it's going to be a lot different than what he's been used to.
I agree. I definitely agree with that one. But hey, if Bill Belichick can prepare his team, he's a damn good head coach. The Patriots have a very high ceiling at this point.
Yes.
Speaking of high ceilings, let's talk about this team, and also speak of weather control stadiums. Let's talk about this team as well. The Arizona Cardinals, kind of like we touched on at the beginning of the show, they got blown out by the Panthers in a game that really wasn't close from the beginning and all the way to the end. This was a tough one to watch if you're a Cardinals fan, losing 34-10, almost, and especially with Cam Newton being back. This is just reminiscent of that whole 2016 NFC Championship game where the Cardinals got walloped. But hey, shout out to you. You guys should love me. I'm a Broncos fan. Then we went to go put her on the Panthers, get a little bit of revenge for you guys, So you're welcome. But with all
Don't
this,
call us a hero for that.
hey, I'll take the term. Anything to make me feel better about being a Broncos fan at this point, I'll take it. Because they're not good. But the statement is that after this loss, Alex, the Arizona Cardinals are frauds.
You know what? I'm going to sell this statement again, and it's not for, I kind of said this earlier, but I don't think the Cardinals are, the bona fide Super Bowl contenders that they looked like when they were 7-0. But when you have Kyler Murray out like this, having just that ability to split those games, I think is a massive win for them. I don't think you need to push Kyler Murray in this regular season, especially because you're afforded that with that hot start. And, the Rams, Seahawks, and 49ers are not looking as strong as they were on paper at the beginning of the year. So you were afforded this time to give Kyler Murray, that time to rest up. And we saw how much different he was last year after the injury. So I think they're kind of, smartly going more that conservative route with Kyler Murray. And so they're doing that same thing with obviously D-Hop and Chase Edmonds, but having it's just that split was so important, especially to win a division game with that, with Colt McCoy as your starting quarterback. That I don't think they're frauds because the NFC is just littered with those contenders that all have their big asterisks on them. And, the Cardinals had the longest stretch in the NFC where they looked dominant. So they could still rest their hat on that. And the fact that they're getting Kyler Murray at hopefully a healthier clip for the stretch run is going to be very beneficial for them.
Yeah, I'm with you there. They're not frauds, and they're still a really good football team. You're missing 3 of your biggest offensive players. That's obviously going to diminish your ability to do that.
Why are we agreeing so much? I don't like this.
Well, I think we can find some things to absolutely rip each other to shreds about. I'll give more to Tom Brady slander. Screw Tom Brady. He's, he annoys me. He has a dumb face and a butt chin.
Yeah, winning annoys people a lot too. It's just hard to be so dominant in the one sport that is, created so much parity over the last 60 years. But no, I agree.
Shut up,
That's
I hate you.
It's a good take by you.
Bastard. There's some Cardinals, man. They're still definitely a playoff team. There's no doubt about that. I wouldn't call them frauds for losing to a game, especially like something like with how they utilize Cam Newton coming back, and just 2 quick touchdowns off the bat like that can really just kind of took the air out of the team.
Emotionally, they were out of it.
Exactly. And there's nothing wrong with missing your quarterback, who is an MVP candidate at this point, one of the best wide receivers in the league, a really solid and possibly underrated running threat. And also, if you look, the Panthers are a well put together team as well. They're not a bad team.
They're balanced as well. They play all 3 phases in a similar manner. They're not
Skill way to put it.
Yeah, they're not top heavy in any division.
Yeah. So, are they frauds? No. They can still contend for a Super Bowl. They're still contending for that playoff, for that division crown. They're still contending for playoff wins. So, I kind of put this in here because I feel like I don't agree with it, but I saw a lot of people. It is Twitter and social media, so take everything with a mountain of salt. But a lot of people kind of jumped on the Cardinals hate bandwagon after a loss like this. A lot of people being way too overreactive about a loss like this.
Remember, the Bucs lost with their quarterback to the Washington football team, and Chase Young tore his ACL in the middle of the game. So,
and that was a team that the Broncos handled as well.
Yes.
not good. Not good for the Bucks. Last statement of the buy or sell segment this week. Going raw for the Cardinals. With the return of Cam Newton, the Panthers are a playoff team.
I buy every single bit of this. I absolutely love the way that Cam Newton has so much swag when he's with the Panthers, and something about that jersey, those colors, I think they pop a little more with Cam, and it's seeing him, CMC, and even Robbie Anderson looks like he's got a little more swag with Cam Newton there. They both got the crazy hair in the post-game interview, and I love seeing that irrational confidence Cam, and especially because he's going to be able to get him, I think, to maybe a 9-8 record, which I think is going to do it in the NFC this year, especially because that 7th team is going to be just so up for grabs. Yep. And I think it's just fun having Cam in there. I don't think he's a good quarterback at all, but he's a gimmick player, and having that little extra oomph and that little extra drive because of he's back in Carolina and back where he won his MVP and went to the Super Bowl I think it's just a fun little storyline, but one that's not going to amount to anything at all when it comes to playoffs because he's just not a good quarterback anymore.
Yeah. This is a kind of move that's going to have a lot bigger effect on the locker room than it is on the actual talent level of this team.
Oh, yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
This is a residual win kind of.
Right? But a good locker room is the base of on-field success. If you bring a guy to better the locker room, that's a totally fine thing to do. There's nothing wrong with that. And him and PJ Walker, in terms of overall quarterback play, are pretty comparable for what kind of offensive output you're going to get. The only thing here, though, is this is where I'll disagree with you, Alex. I'm going to sell this statement because the Panthers really can only make it into the playoffs at that 7th seed. That's all I see. I don't see them doing better than the Saints, better than the Rams, than any of the other divisional winners in there. And they're going to have to duke out with 2 teams in the Vikings and 49ers. It's going to be a scrap between those 3 for the 7th seed. I really like what I've seen from the Niners, especially with that demolition of the Rams on Monday Night Football. That really caught my eye there. And the Vikings they're not a great team. They're definitely not. But they have talent. Kirk Cousins is an underrated quarterback only because it's really easy to make jokes about him and how poor he plays, especially in primetime football. But he almost gets overlooked. He puts up good numbers. He puts his team in positions to win. He doesn't turn the ball over a whole lot, and he throws 2-3 touchdowns a game. They have a good receiving core there in Minnesota. Obviously, that one, when healthy, one of the most dynamic running backs the league has seen. It's going to be a hard-fought battle for the 7th seed. And just within the division that the Panthers play in, there's losses that come with that. And their out-of-division schedule, it's not the easiest. So, selling this statement just because I think the 49ers or the Vikings are in a better position to grab that 7th seed at this point in time.
And I think, you're right on that. And it's reminiscent of last year when the Bears snuck into the playoffs the last week. And, what was it? The Cardinals had to beat the Rams when it was John Wolford against Chris Streveler, I believe, in week 17. And did not go very well. And I mean, it's just that NFC, that last playoff spot is going to be up for grabs, and it's just going to be it's going to be like a fast-paced NBA game where it's almost like the last possession wins, where it's like the last team with momentum is going to be the team that gets in there.
It's going to come down to week 18 probably, man. Like both of the 7 seeds in either conference.
Everyone's going to be in the hunt until week 15 at least.
Well, if you look at the NFC, the only team that isn't in the hunt is the Lions.
That's crazy.
There's one team 11. Not in the hunt.
It's week 11. It's crazy.
Oh, man. If the Lions are just a little bit better, everyone would be in the hunt. And so these 7 seeds, I'm almost a fan of them implementing the 7 seed now because the races for these are going to be crazy to watch at the end of the season. Hey, it just works out for us fans. But there you go. Buy or sell it. Let us know what you guys think about that one. Alex and I agreed on the first 2 to sell them. I'm selling the third one with the Panthers being a playoff team. And Alex is buying that one. Of course, like I said, let us know your thoughts on that. Well, we got a few more things we're going to hit here. Of course, we're going to talk about some ties, the most overrated team. Got another week of What the Blank with
I
Alex.
love this segment
Dude,
so much.
It's a fun one, I know.
So much.
See, I do like the wordplay because, of course, my co-host on UFC Talk is Blake, so it's what the blank with Blake is. Blake fills in the blanks, and it's a word mess, and really.
I mean, the alliteration goes crazy there. Try doing that. Yeah, I mean, we kind of have a cheat code there because we can speed it up. We can speed it up on that 2 times where it just sounds so much more impressive when that alliteration where it rolls off the tongue. But if you put it down in 0.5 speed, it doesn't sound as impressive.
I don't know what can I say. I'm just a true professional when it comes to talking. But the first thing we're going to talk, and also, I mean, Alex is probably going to appreciate this, resident 49er fan. Got the fun name of the week here. That involves Monday Night Football. That's for sure. Oh boy, be careful what you say in the press conference. But what we need to ask here is that, so we just had our first tie of the NFL season. Typically, we get about 1 a year. We got a little extra in, like 2016 we had a couple, 2018 we had a couple, and we got our first tie with just a bad game. The Lions versus Steelers was the weather didn't help, but that was just a bad game to watch. It didn't look like either team really wanted to win. And now we are stuck with a really ugly looking record. These teams having 3 numbers in their win-loss tie column.
I'm going to stop you right there. Yeah. You're making this blanket statement that it's an ugly looking number to people, but let's put this back in reference where if you're sitting in, let's say Grand Rapids, Michigan, and you are a big Motor City, Detroit Lions, let's go Dan Campbell, big fan like that. Mm-hmm. You've been staring at a 2 numbers most of the year, and the first one's always been a 0. And
first one's still 0.
The first one is still a 0, but I would argue as little old Betty Sue in Grand Rapids, Michigan is looking at 0-8-1 and is just sitting there smiling just a little bit because they get a little relief from that winless season talk. So let's put that back into perspective. All right, but yeah, I don't think the Yinzers up in Steel City like that one in the third column very much.
No, they don't. Well, maybe shouldn't fumble the football there at the end of overtime, but. The real question is, should we still have ties? Are they a thing that we need to see in the NFL? And if not, what should the alternative be? And I just got to say, Alex, I hate ties. Ties are stupid. That's one of the big reasons why I don't watch a boring sport known as soccer. Because how do we get ties, man? Ties are dumb. Baseball, we play until there's a winner. We've seen games go into the 20th inning, literally playing more than a double-length game just to get a winner. NHL, they do. I mean, you get in the regular season, you get 5 minutes to 3-on-3 hockey. That's some of the most exciting plays you could watch in sports. And after that, you get a shootout, and shootouts are still pretty damn exciting. I don't breathe during them. I don't breathe when I want to watch the Sharks are actually somewhat of a good football team, a hockey team now, I guess. Probably jinx it, but who knows, man? Who knows with that team?
You're about 10 minutes from my apartment. I can feel the energy from the stadium.
It's actually positive energy this year, not like it was last season. So that's a good move. And another thing too is like NBA overtime. We play until we get a winner. Ties are dumb, man. I think college football does it so well. One of the things I like about college football, we play for a winner. And those overtime games are exciting. I mean, I can say from personal experience, being a part of an overtime game in college is exciting. I was damn nervous, but we ended up pulling out the dub, so it's all good there. But man, the NFL shouldn't have ties, man. I think ties are just they're just a dumb thing to have, man. I don't like it how we could walk away from a game unresolved, unfinished. It's like walking away from a movie that has a cliffhanger. But it's just a bad cliffhanger too.
And so here's where, as a co-host, you kind of you see a guy in open field and you start to get a little hot. You just let him cook. Let Ross cook
Bring
a
me
little
back.
bit. He's very, very passionate about this subject. And I wanted him to get everything out there because unfortunately, I'm going to zag on this one because I absolutely love the tie in the NFL.
Oh, you're gross.
You're
gross.
Fun.
No.
It is so fun to see the 2 teams. And if you would have opened up week 10, see the slate, and you look at that little Detroit Pittsburgh game, a day before the kickoff, you have Mason Rudolph as a starter. And at that point, something weird is going to happen. And we were around the time of our anniversary of the Mason Rudolph assault on I don't know if that was Sunday or Thursday night football. I think it was Thursday night football.
Mm-hmm.
And something weird was going to happen. And now for the rest of the year, the In the Hunt graphic always has a weird wrinkle with that Pittsburgh Steelers team being 5-3-1. And I cannot get enough of it because that 10-6 record now with that 17th game, that 10-6-1, you now ahead of every single 10-win team. And so I think it's fun. I think it's great, especially when you have teams as funny as the Lions and the Steelers get the tie. I mean, if this was like the Chiefs and the Bills had a tie, I would obviously hate that. But the comedy in that overtime period where it's just the end of it. Pat Freiermuth has played so well this entire season, and instead of just running out of bounds where the ball was taking him, he tries to turn upfield, and as soon as he turns upfield, he gets the ball popped out and it just sits there lifeless when it had no business not going out of bounds. So I absolutely love the tie. I think it's super fun to root for, especially when you have bad teams like that. So respectfully, I'm going to disagree with you, although it would be way more fun to have a 50-yard 50-yard possession and just go back and forth until we have a winner. A tie is just chaos, and it's absolutely fun. We need it in the NFL.
That's fair. That's very fair. You just love to see things burn. And I can respect that. I can respect that take. That is, if you're going to defend ties, that is really the only way you can, in my opinion.
Chaos is fun.
Well, if you want chaos, I mean, it was just horrible to watch. The overtime series was punt, fumble, missed field goal, punt, fumble, game over.
It was not fun to watch.
That's horrid, man. That's so bad. But let's talk alternatives, because I really think, like, that's why I talk about colleges. I think college does it right. I think they have the best overtime format in that football can copy. What I think we do, it's NFL, it's big boys, I guess. Instead of taking the ball at the 25 and going in, maybe take it at the 50 and go in from there. But if we're going to do it, we could play back and forth like that. I mean, the NFL has progressed. The whole, it's a touchdown or a safety that automatically wins the game. If you kick a field goal, the other team still gets a chance to win. I think that's great. Way better than the old NFL where you drive the ball to, the 35, you kick a field goal and you win the game. Super anticlimactic. The NFL needs to take a playbook from the college here. I think that's the best thing to do. Go back and forth from the 50.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And here's the problem is that what happens if we run into the situation where we give the Lions the ball at the 50, we give the Steelers the ball at the 50, and all of a sudden at the end of that drive, the ball is now at their own 42. And we have this same situation because we have these inept offenses where I think we need to get to a point where I love in college football now that we have the 2 overtimes, you make it go, make it even, that first team going first and then they go second the next time, obviously make that even 2 round, make somewhat of an even playing field. But then you have that third kind of wrinkle where, we have either a field goal kickoff where we start at the 20, go to the 30, go to the 40, go to the 50, and just see how, Justin Tucker can continuously prove himself to be one of the most valuable players. And
that's great. If we're like, it's not going to be specifically this Lions Steelers game, but if we're sticking with that, I'd much rather have the offense out there than those kickers because they.
That's very true. I think
was sad.
We might have seen the worst field goal attempt.
Dude, you had to get the ball up to the 5. Okay, put the ball on the 5, and maybe they'll make it from there.
Yeah, give him a different, give him a shorter PAT attempt.
Can we give them a soccer goal or maybe like a wider goalpost?
Just like a really just take both uprights and put that as the actual crossbar. Just have really, really short, stocky uprights and just have a lot of chaos up there. Like, did we go over the net? We don't really know, but I think we need to give something, especially when those teams meet up.
Yeah.
It's not going to be fixed.
This game was bad. No,
the NFL is so slow to make those big wholesome changes, especially when it's a specific.
Especially when it comes to increasing the standard of the game.
Of course, yeah, we gotta lower that. We gotta tampen that down.
You can't have that. You can't have fun. And
not under Roger Goodell's watch.
And now the NFL is even clamping down on NFL content creators on YouTube, just copyright striking videos just for having logos in them. Or not copyright striking, they're copyright claiming them so they get all the ad revenue from that, just for having a logo in there. It's the NFL needs to moral of the story, NFL, focus on the things that actually matter, please. Like overtime and ties and not being a prick of a league ran by grumpy old people. I think that's one thing where we can go there. But Alex, next thing we're going to talk about here is we're over the halfway hump. It was a disappointing week 10 for a few teams. Of course, that's going to be a part of what the blank. But as of right now, there's a few teams that could clearly say, yes, these are some of the most overrated teams in the league. Mine still, because I'm gonna ask you this question mostly. I'm still going to say it. I've been saying from week one, my most overrated team, at least when it comes to regular season, is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're not great. Of course, you could throw that entire narrative out the window once we get the playoffs is what it appears to be, especially last year. But as of now, overrated as hell. But Alex, who is the most overrated team at this point of the season, and why?
I think it's not because of the traditional reason I think they're a fraudulent team. I don't. I think the Packers are a really good team, a balanced team. But the problem becomes when you get into the playoffs, and they've gotten into this issue the last 3 to 4 years that they've been in the playoffs. They get to the NFC Championship, but they don't seem to have the number 2 weapon behind Davante Adams to be able to make a difference on the offensive side. And it seems like no matter how good their defense looks during the regular season, when they get into a situation where teams can scheme against them, they do not show up. And so similar to a lot of those top teams on the NFC is just they have so many holes in them that we can poke. Is we just need to see these teams in a playoff setting. And I just inherently trust teams like the Buccaneers. And,
do you trust the Bucs, or do you trust Tom Brady?
It's the Tom Brady aspect. And the weird thing is you think that Aaron Rodgers would kind of fit that mold as the guy you would trust, but it's everything around him. It's when it seems like when Aaron Rodgers doesn't have that second, that weapon to be able to separate, when Randall Cobb was doing his work, the Donald Drivers of the world, the Jimmy Grahams when he was, making an impact on the offensive side.
Can we just take a moment to remember Green Bay, Jimmy Graham?
God, so good.
That was so much fun to watch.
It's incredible.
Oh, I miss it.
Yeah,
I miss it.
They just doesn't have that anymore. So it's like,
yeah, but tangent over. Let carry on.
Yeah,
I just had to take a moment there.
You always got to appreciate Jimmy Graham. It's one of the most dominant gingers we've ever had in the NFL. And so he was
in Red Rocket, Andy Dalton, the two greatest,
the two most iconic gingers in the whole NFL. And the Packers, what worries me is they've scored 30 points or more only twice in this NFL season. And you would not expect that from an Aaron Rodgers-led offense. And it's not December, January yet in Green Bay. So it's one of those things where can we buy this defense being so strong and being able to hold the Chiefs to 13 points and hold the Seahawks, although it was a hurt Russell Wilson that couldn't take a snap under center, which I have no idea why they would play Russell Wilson when you take 50% of the offense completely away from him. So that's besides the point.
Geno Smith honestly wasn't half bad in replacement.
Yeah, I think that was a similar situation to the Baker in Cleveland, where a hampered Baker I don't think is more effective than Case Keenum, and especially this is true with that 0-point performance that Russell Wilson put up. But
hey, let's talk about former Broncos backups going off real quick. Case Keenum, Trevor Siemian, now the return of the Elite One in Joe Flacco in New York. Oh, I hate the Broncos. I hate the Broncos so much.
I mean, the Broncos should at all times carry 5 quarterbacks that are all mediocre and just hope one of them gets hot in warmups.
Can we get a 30 for 30 on the Broncos quarterback carousel?
I mean, you got to get in line behind the Browns and the Lions, or not the Lions, but the Browns and the Browns in that situation. So,
well, at least they were always bad. The Broncos won a Super Bowl and then haven't done jack since. Speaking,
very true. So that 30 for 30 might have a big gap in it where you just completely forget that you had a Hall of Fame quarterback in there that won a Super Bowl.
And then even before Peyton Manning showed up, it was Jay Cutler. You had Kyle Orton.
Okay, Jay Cutler was really good.
All right, Jake. Yeah, actually, I shouldn't slander the chosen one.
Jay Cutler is probably better than any of those Browns quarterbacks they had since the early 2000s.
Better than Baker Mayfield as well, huh?
Yeah, better than Derek Anderson.
And Kyle Orton straight ironed his hair as a dude, and then of course he got replaced by the greatest quarterback of all time, with Tim Tebow. God bless you, Tim. Hero, American hero.
Better than Paxton Lynch.
At least Tim Tebow did run like like a limping gazelle. Okay.
Yeah.
6'7" people, 6'7" people really are just not that great at running.
Did Chad Kelly ever start a game for the Broncos?
I don't think he started. He played the game, and then he got drunk on Halloween and broke into someone's house. And
pulled the Pat McAfee. Classic. Absolute classic.
Oh, that.
Gotta love it.
We need to have a whole show this house and just talk about Broncos.
The Broncos have had a really tough time with Halloween parties, especially the fact that that's the reason Von Miller's now on a different team.
Oh, I love that story. I mean obviously, I don't believe
it. They need to outlaw all Halloween celebration for at least a couple years to make sure nothing like this happens again. That's a tough look.
Right, it's makes things interesting, that's for sure. And I love this tangent that we gotten off of. I hope you guys have enjoyed it too. Broncos quarterbacks I know our biggest Patreon supporter, Ray Rodriguez, will maybe he'll appreciate it, but in the bad sense that he's also a fellow Broncos fan, and so he knows.
It's not a good situation to be an AFC East team that was surging 4 weeks ago. If we're looking at the Chargers, the Raiders, and the Broncos, they are not in the same situation they were 4 weeks ago.
No, and that whole AFC West has gotten flipped on its head because the Broncos, Raiders, Chargers now suck apparently, and now the Chiefs are back to being good after sucking.
Wrap your head around that.
No, I won't, because it will it'll only give me more headaches, and I already have enough trying to watch Broncos play a football game. But let's rock and roll into the last couple parts of this show, ladies and gentlemen. What the blank, okay? I say that so many times while watching football, whether it be trying to figure out what the hell is going on with the AFC, why the Broncos haven't fired all their coaches yet, or just trying to, some of these primetime games just make no sense, but what the blank? Where Alex is going to fill in the blank with a few statements here. Been going on for a couple weeks now, and so I'm glad. I've been loving the response that you guys have given me about this, so we're going to keep things rocking and rolling.
Let's get it going.
First statement, Alex, is the blank had the most disappointing week 10.
I'm going to give it to the Bucs because you just don't expect them, especially after the stinker they've already played this year, to go into Washington and get dominated like that. I mean, especially I know Tom Brady doesn't play defense. I know he doesn't have any influence over that side of the field, but it just doesn't feel like a Tom Brady-led team should give up a 20-play, 18-minute drive at the end of the game to be sealed and just not even give him the chance. It seems like Tom Brady always has a chance at the end of the game to go back and make that roaring comeback. And
isn't it crazy to think that Tom Brady's, in the history of his storied career, his biggest kryptonite is Taylor Heineke?
It's crazy. I mean, and here's the thing is the Washington football team kind of laid their hat in the offseason on, they had a pass rush with 4 guys that could get the job done. And we've already documented that Chase Young is not a good football player this year.
Say it again for the people that haven't heard, Alex.
Chase Young is not a good football player this year. And
he definitely won't be. Your take is locked in on.
I am. This for the worst reason. Played out so well for me. I hate injuries. I don't want them to affect anything. But the fact that Chase Young has not been a good pass rusher and has 1.5 sacks this year through 10 games, and then goes out with an ACL injury.
Obviously, we're not celebrating. We're not celebrating injuries here. That's obviously not what
I'm celebrating. A take. Is what I'm doing.
It could be cemented for a unfortunate reason, but
I deserve it
nonetheless. Alex, hats off for you already secured one of the takes of the year just by default.
And I wanted to shout out one special listener out there, Coach Zach Lalonde. Does a great job every single week listening to our podcast and giving us some good feedback.
Love you, Coach, man. One of the best coaches I played under, especially at high school level.
Just when you make a statement like that and you refute a
and what do you say, Alex? What do you say for those that didn't see the comment?
He was worried that it might have gone on his record that he taught us the game of football, and now we're spewing out these comments. And I just wanted to reiterate to him that you got to let the take develop, and you got to let the take play out before you really put something like that in the comments that's time stamped and that we can take a screenshot of and make
cook, man. We're almost at Thanksgiving. You got to slow cook these things.
Sorry, man. It's tough, but you got to make sure people are held accountable in this day and age.
Hey, and to his credit, he did admit.
Coach Lalonde.
Hey, shout out to Coach Lalonde, one of the real ones out there, and one of the best fans that we have. So, of course, huge thanks out to the Lalondes there. Statement number 2, Alex, is that after Week 10, the best team in football is the blank.
All right, I'm going to put the NFL shield as my emblem there, and I'm not going to give you an answer. I'm going to abstain from this question because we do not have a best team in football right now. So,
the cop out, but I almost had to respect it.
Fifth on this one. I don't want any take like this on the record for people to laugh at me later on. So I'm going to abstain. I don't do it often. I'm usually going to head out there and give you everything I got, but I don't have it in me right now because I would say the Cowboys and I would look like an idiot.
You know.
Ooh. But the best football team in the league right now is the Cowboys.
Oh. So, Alex gets the best of both worlds here by giving an actual answer for this without giving an actual answer for this. Oh, you bastard.
Classic trick that I pulled.
He's a hustler, ladies and gentlemen.
What's your answer there, though? I need to hear it.
Right now, man. Right now. I guess I just have to get to my number 1 team on my power rankings, which is the Tennessee Titans.
That's just the fair answer right now, but it doesn't feel good. You're not.
No, I don't feel good. But the only thing is what's the one thing we've been asking for from any team this entire season, Alex? It's consistency. The most consistent team we've seen so far this year is the Tennessee Titans. They've had one bad loss in Week 1 and then another early loss to the Jets. Besides that, nothing crazy. So right now, they are the most potent team in the league. And it's nice to see their defense coming along too, because that's one of the biggest mysteries early on in the season. Also, they have one of the toughest, meanest, best coaches in the league in Mike Vrabel. If your coach is willing to cough his manhood when it comes to winning a playoff game, that's the guy you're going to want to play football for. And Derrick Henry still has a chance to come back this year too. So once your favorite Tractorcito shows back up, man, they're just going to be a damn good team. Last statement of what the blank, Alex, is that the team most primed for a huge second half is the blank.
I don't feel good about this at all because it's the easiest game in the world, but it's the Kansas City Chiefs, and every single week it is. And you probably thought I was going to go with the Niners there, but I'm not.
Actually, no. I gave you enough respect not to be a total homer on this take.
Okay, good. Because if the question was flipped and it's the team primed for the worst second half in the league, the answer would clearly be the Denver Broncos. So I'm glad that we're on the same page there with our fanhood. But
I kind of hate you, but at the same time, I can't totally disagree with you. So I'm stuck.
And it's the Kansas City Chiefs because everyone was so quick to write them off when they had still a top 5 offense in the league, although they were 2-4 and just didn't look like themselves. But the cop-out answer for this is the Chiefs because that division is just such a mess and they can almost walk into a top 4 seed. They're the number 1 seed right now in the
by
AFC.
Default.
Yeah, it's just the Raiders don't have a soul anymore. The Chargers look like they're the riverboat gamblers that don't have the horses to actually make those calls, and the Broncos are an absolute mess with a really good secondary. So
also a really good running back. And Javonte
really good running back. Really good running back.
I'll give him the most underrated receiver in the league in Tim Patrick. But besides those 3 bright spots.
What's wrong with Jerry Jeudy? Is he just not a good player?
Well, he's not getting targets. And he was injured for 4 weeks this season, so that's going to take away from his numbers. He's just in a pretty good receiving core with Cortland Sutton and Tim Patrick.
And Noah Fant's a great player. And Albert O is kind of a Swiss Army knife out there.
Albert O is a better tight end than Noah Fant because he doesn't consistently whiff on blocks. He doesn't get penalized at least once a game. And honestly, he might be the better receiver as well.
And he's also got that rapport with Drew Lock if he hits that 4th-year bump.
Dude,
in a
just
couple
start
years.
Drew Lock at this point. What do you got to lose, Denver? What do you got?
Because they're still in it. The weird thing is they're still in
They're
it.
a 500 team.
No, they're 5-5. What are they supposed to do? They can't just mail it in because they have 5 wins.
Yeah, and you're still in the hunt.
They are pretty, kind of squarely in the hunt there.
Baffles my mind, Alex.
It doesn't make sense.
They're a 5-5 team that feels like a 1-9 team. I
Agree.
don't understand it.
The
And because
confidence
they
of a
go
1-9.
and put a hurting on the Cowboys, and they limit the Cowboys to 16 garbage time points. And the Cowboys then go and put up a big old bombshell on the Falcons, and the Broncos give up a bunch of points to the Eagles.
It makes no sense.
Nothing.
The more you think about it, the less it makes sense.
I have a headache. We're going to stop talking about this. I'm going to go need some freaking ibuprofen when we're done here, just to get through.
Double up the dosage.
Ooh, it's going to be bad. But that's going to do it for What the Blank this week. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for sticking on here till the end because we're going to cap things off with the Nay of the week. And like I hinted, this has to do with the Monday Night Football game with the Rams and the Niners. And be careful what you say in post-game press conferences because, oh boy, did that ever come back to bite you in the butt if you are Aaron Donald. Earlier in the week, reporter rightfully asking about what you guys are going to do with Deebo Samuel, who's one of the most underrated versatile threats in the league, quite frankly. This dude lined him up.
2 of the league in receiving yards.
Yeah, and he's a wide receiver that's being lined up in the backfield as a running back.
Running for touchdowns.
Yes, and it once again, it doesn't make sense. None of this makes sense. And then Aaron Donald was able to. This was just, I like Aaron Donald. Like, he's never really been anything controversial, and he's obviously a fantastic player. But his statement here to go, when asked by the reporter what they're going to do for Deebo Samuel, he just goes, "Who?" He says that twice. And then Deebo Samuel scorches your ass on primetime. That's a nay if I've ever seen one.
And I'm gonna add a little feel to that.
Please.
I'm just gonna take one of those turkey basters that you put some filling.
Are we gonna get a little
turkey.
butter paste on this?
I'm just gonna really just add some flavor in there. Let the whole.
If you can't tell, we're
cook.
excited for Thanksgiving.
That the mind's already thinking, it's turning, and I
can't wait to see the Lions lose on Thursday.
I want to bring you back to the offseason, and I want to bring you back to an interview that Jimmy Moore had at NFL Media Day, and he was talking about Stafford and bringing him in, and he just goes, the guy's never won before. It's going to be the same old Stafford. You put on a different uniform on him, and he's still the same guy. And Jimmy Moore, what does he do when he plays Matt Stafford? Picks him off twice, takes one back to the house, puts 34. I mean, it should have been 34-7. That was one of the saddest field goals I've ever seen out of Sean McVay there. There's absolutely no reason that they should have. They're down 20 or 31-7, excuse me. Down 24, 5 minutes left, something like that. They kick a field goal
owners
to make a 3-possession game a 3-possession game. Very smart by Sean McVay. But yeah, it's I think the Rams PR person gets the nay of the week because they just absolutely eaten alive this week.
Oh,
not good at all.
Or what about them? People bring up the tweet about them after they trade for Von Miller with the gif of going, "We're all in."
We're all in, and then you just see the Deuce 7 show up where it's like, this isn't good.
Not great.
Not great, Jim.
Oh, this was something else, and this was just one of the best ways to cap off another unthinkable week of football. But that's going to do it for us this week, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much, like I said, for sticking on till the end. We really do appreciate each and every one of you, your individual view, your time, your ability to take time out of your day to watch this, to listen to this, to tune in from anywhere really does mean everything to us. And thank you. Just a thank you, man. And Alex brought the A game today, and you are a cheap son of a bitch with your takes here, playing it safe.
We love the ties around here. We love the ties.
Oh, why do I even have you on sometimes?
You're gonna be rethinking this for the whole next week.
No, you know what they say, there's no such thing as bad PR, so even a bad take still gets views. I mean, how do you think Skip Bayless has made his living?
I mean, people thought that the Chase Young take was bad, and look how that one's blossomed into a whole bouquet of flowers.
I said, huh? What you say? What you say?
What you say?
Oh boy, here we go. That's where we're going to end things. Ladies and gentlemen, I mean, of course, to find all of our stuff, like I said, we're now on Rumble. We got videos on Spotify now as well. Of course, we're still on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you can listen to shows like this. We are there. And one of the biggest contributions to the show, one of the things that make this all possible and continues to help us better the show, in terms of how much we're able to produce, in terms of the quality. And I will let you know I do have a plan to increase the quality starting next week. So for any audio and video listeners, there is going to be changes coming. So please stay tuned. Of course, find out for stuff at thefourthandlong.com. But some of the people that make it possible, some of the biggest fans and our biggest supporters are our Patreon supporters. And so you can, of course, become a Patreon donor today, get behind the scenes footage, get extra content, get discounts on merch. Starting at just $1 a month, you can go on over to patreon.com/fourthandlong. And a huge shout out to our donors. Big one, mentioned earlier in the show, Ray Rodriguez. For all your card collecting needs, go on to Instagram and follow at the Big Bat Box. Shout out to Ryan Watson and Neil Wiley. And one more thing before we get to Alex's closing statement is we got a new show coming out very soon for all of you. I mean, one thing that's boomed over the last year or so is card collecting in sports cards. And so we got an expert that's going to be coming on, and we're going to give you all the insider information that you need to know to essentially, what's cool with cards, there are essentially stocks that you can hold in your hand, and that's crazy.
The way that I like to describe the card collecting industry,
it's a real NFT.
No, you take something that we know everything about. I mean, you take a guy just randomly, like let's say Christian McCaffrey, and think of him as Apple stock. You know, me as a consumer, I want to think that I know everything about Apple, but really I know they make good products, and they have a CEO that used to be a bald guy and was super cool to look at. And now I can take that same kind of concept and put it into a guy like Christian McCaffrey, where I know where he went to college. I know who his dad is. I know he's got brothers that are super athletic. And I know that he's a multifaceted, multi-talented Swiss Army knife out of the backfield. And it's like going into a stock market for players that I have so much useless information for, and now I can put that into something that can actually make me some financial gain. So it warrants all that useless information we have in our head.
Oh, isn't it great? And what's crazy is you see people making hundreds and thousands of dollars off of paper and plastic. And so we're going to give you the best information that you need to know in order to help possibly either have a bitchin' collection, or most importantly, make a little bit of change on the side. But Alex, with all that being said, your thoughts about Week 10 of the NFL season in one word or phrase?
The year of the zig and the zag.
Ooh. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for tuning in. Keep zigging and zagging, because I know Alex and I, especially when it comes to most of our takes, will. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you after Week 11.